All right, guys, welcome back to another day of PowerPoints and Presentations 101. This will be our third instance in the class, and so far the first one, we looked at PowerPoints and setting up a proper PowerPoint, some do's and don'ts. The second class, we talked about presenting and how to carry oneself as far as the actual presentation part of any sort of presentation instead of the PowerPoint. Today, we're going to be looking at historically very influential presentations and look at some of the things they do and don't do. So keeping in mind some of the things we've learned in the past, being prepared as far as using the PowerPoint to briefly show your audiences what you want them to show them without without having them stare at. You want the presentation to be focused on you. You don't want them staring at your screen. You want them to quickly look up, see what they need to see, and then be back to you. So what's on the screen reinforces what you're saying, not vice versa. So with that in mind, we're going to look at our first one. And go. This is, let me get this set up. Search sound. So this is Steve Jobs presenting the iPhone in 2007, the very first iPhone. So I figured this would be very crucial because I know most of you guys have iPhones now. So this was the very first one in his presentation of it.
This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. And Apple has been, well, first of all, one's very fortunate if you get to work on just one of these in your career. Apple's been very fortunate. It's been able to introduce a few of these into the world. In 1984, we introduced the Macintosh. It didn't just change Apple, it changed the whole computer industry. In 2001, we introduced the first iPod. And it didn't just change the way we all listen to music. It changed the entire music industry. Well, today, we're introducing 3 revolutionary products of this class. The first one is a widescreen iPod with touch controls.
That was revolutionary back then, yo. But I don't know if you've noticed what he's done so far, but he's kind of going through the timeline to set up his presentation for now. So his first thing was, well, what did we do first was we introduced the Macintosh. It was the first computer. It wasn't just a computer. It revolutionized the whole use of computers. That's what he said. And then he went on. Then we reduced the iPod. It didn't just give you great music. It was revolutionary, changed the whole iPod, the music industry. And it did. And he's backing this up. But as he's going through, you get the idea, okay, so they released this, everything changed. They released this, everything changed in that industry. So now he's like, now we're going to release this. And he's setting up that whole big change.
The second is a revolutionary mobile phone. And the third is a breakthrough internet communications device. So, 3 things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, A phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. And here it is. No. Actually, here it is, but we're going to leave it there for now. So, before we get into it, let me talk about a category of things. The most advanced phones are called smartphones, so they say. And
so that whole presentation, the whole 3 minutes that we just watched, was his intro. It was his hook. It was, oh, and I think it messed up on me. Stay right there. The whole thing was just his hook. It was just, I'll stop the share for now. It was just him setting up this introduction to this phone. He didn't go into any specifications. He didn't go into any of that. He spent most of that time on the introduction to the iPhone. And now all of you want to know the iPhone. That's awesome. You guys, you are into it, right? I know Kiana's sitting here smiling. I was smiling. We have a little bit of foresight. We know what happens to the iPhone and how it develops. But still, at the time, if you had just known what the audience knew at that point, you were excited. And that's because he spent time to introduce the topic, and he built it very consecutively. So step 1, this is what we did. Step 2, step 3. Now we're going to introduce these 3 new things all in one. So he built up the excitement for it, and the rest he'll go on to go through the specifications and the qualifications. And that's just the due diligence of any presentation reporter in that specter. And he's presenting a new item, so he's got to go through and say what it is and what it does. But the most important part I wanted you guys to see was how he built the introduction to that. So the next one. Oh, sure, this one should be ready. And this is a TED Talk. I love TED Talks, so had to throw it in. And for some reason, can you guys see my screen? Well, everything's okay. I don't think I can mute myself, so we should be.
I need to make a confession at the outset here. A little over 20 years ago, I did something that I regret, something that I'm not particularly proud of, something that in many ways I wish no one would ever know, but that here I feel kind of obliged to reveal. In the late 1980s, in a moment of youthful indiscretion, I went to law school. Now, in America, law is a professional degree. You get your university degree, then you go on to law school. And when I got to law school, I didn't do very well. To put it mildly, I didn't do very well. I, in fact, graduated in the part of my law school class that made the top 90% possible. Thank you. I never practiced law a day in my life. I pretty much wasn't allowed to. But today, against my better judgment, against the advice of my own wife, I want to try to dust off some of those legal skills, what's left of those legal skills. I don't want to tell you a story. I want to make a case. I want to make a hard-headed, evidence-based, dare I say lawyerly case for rethinking how we run our businesses. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, take a look at this. This is called the candle problem. Some of you might have seen this before. It's created in 1945 by a...
So a lot shorter introduction there. In this case, it was only a minute and 40-ish seconds, but he accomplished the same thing for a different audience. So he started with a hook, which was in this case a joke, and then he went through and kind of put us in the mindset to look at it from a law perspective, so consequence and action. So he put us in the mood to receive the presentation. He got us comfortable with his joke, and he was directly speaking to his audience. He used words, and his phrases were meant for that specific audience. And then also, I'm gonna let it run.
A psychologist named Carl Dunker. Carl Dunker has created this experiment that's used in a whole variety of experiments in behavioral science. And here's how it works. Suppose I'm the experimenter. I bring you into a room. I give you a candle, some thumbtacks, and some matches. And I say to you, your job is to attach the candle to the wall so the wax doesn't drip onto the table. Now, what would you do? Many people begin trying to thumbtack the candle to the wall. Doesn't work. Somebody.
And the rest of the point of that clip was he's using his graphic, yes, but his graphic just shows the general idea. He's explaining the rest of it. With his hand signals, he's communicating with the crowd, but also what he's saying, his body language. So all of these are very important aspects of a presentation. And regardless of the audience, because one was a tech group and this was a TED Talk. Two very different things. But both of them relied on a hook that set up the audience for what they were currently going to present on. His was Steve Jobs was the new iPhone. His was a different way of thinking, but both set up the introduction for it and then used graphics to help display what they were going to talk about. So that was my key takeaway points from these most influential. And if you want to watch the rest of it, this was actually a really good TED Talk. I love TED Talks. So. But that's it for the day. And just remember those key points. Introduction is very important. Get the audience comfortable and give them the right mindset. And then the use of graphics are powerful as long as you're using them and it's not the whole essence of your whole presentation. So hope you guys have a wonderful day.